On behalf of the Metro Council and the hardworking staff at your regional government, welcome to the State of the Region 2021. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that this concert hall, all of the Metro region, Oregon, and the United States are Indian land. The greater Portland area is built upon the ancestral homelands, villages, and traditional use areas of multiple indigenous tribes and bands. The lands of the confluence of the Willamette and Columbia rivers have long served as a major crossroads for the economic, social, and political interactions of tribal nations for thousands of years. We owe a special acknowledgement to the many tribes and bands who ceded these lands and who have been displaced from their homelands and resources through the settlement of the greater Portland area in the confluence of these rivers. The impacts of our settlement are ongoing and far-reaching. We are on this land because of the forced removal of its indigenous peoples by colonists, settlers, the United States government, and state of Oregon. As a government striving to embed racial equity in our work, we must acknowledge the history of violence, genocide, and theft of indigenous land that is foundational to the establishment of this nation and the state of Oregon. Since colonization, tribal nations and Native communities across America have demonstrated resilience and resistance. We recognize these strong and diverse tribal nations and communities in our region today and offer respect and gratitude for their stewardship of these lands, past, present, and future. We are embarking on a journey to require all Metro staff to build awareness and understanding of the history, tribal histories, and rights, and the lasting impacts of colonialism as we strive to recognize and consider tribal interests and priorities in our work and create equitable opportunities for all communities in the metro area. We encourage our colleagues, partners, and community members to do the same. If there were 3 words that define the state of the region and how we are riding the wave of COVID and this economic recession, they would be partnerships, flexibility, and heart. We're here at the Arlene Schnitzer Concert Hall, one of the 5 theaters operated by Metro and the Portland 5 Centers for the Arts. It is a regional asset that symbolizes all of those words. It is a partnership between the City of Portland and Metro. It is used for multiple purposes and provides the heart and center of our regional cultural realm. As you know, the Portland sign outside is as iconic as the arts and culture that have taken place within our theaters for the past 100 years. It's been almost a year since performances and shows have taken place. A year ago, on any given night, there would be nearly 2,700 people in this room, watching the symphony, listening to a lecture, attending a concert, or watching a performance. Each day, dozens of workers kept the shows going with the lighting, sound, ticket taking, selling food, or helping guests to their seats. At the theaters across the region, including this one, the pandemic has resulted in hundreds of lost jobs. People who loved what they did. Loved sharing the arts with our region, all left with the same doubt and uncertainty that so many Oregonians are facing today. When these performances can safely resume, these theaters will be ready to bring the community back together again. Last February at the 2020 State of the Region, I talked about the need for disruptive change. I was calling for something to disrupt the system because it was not working for everyone and help turn the tide on the complex and difficult issues we were facing last February. This is not exactly what I had in mind when I called for disruption, but the challenges of 2020 made clear the problems we face, making many of those problems worse. I want to acknowledge those challenges today. I want to acknowledge how our warmer, drier weather led to an unprecedented firestorm. I want to acknowledge how centuries of acceptance of racist actions led to atrocities in Minneapolis, in Louisville, in Columbus, in Kenosha, and in our own backyard. I want to acknowledge how millions of Oregonians suddenly had their employment threatened or ended, how the federal government sent little help, and how employers, including Metro, had to make terrible choices. I want to acknowledge that we have lost over 2,100 souls to COVID in Oregon, including 900 here in the Metro area. It really hits me to look at that many empty seats. It hits me that a disproportionate number of people of color were infected with COVID-19, that people of Latino ancestry make up 13% of Oregon's population and 35% of our cases, that people of Black, Indigenous, and Pacific Islander ancestry in Oregon were more than twice as likely to contract COVID-19. But I also don't want to dwell. We know pollution causes climate change. We know that our system is built to undervalue Black lives. We know that the economy is rigged for the rich and powerful and not for small business owners and the workers that keep them going. Our question for the past year and for the years to come is this: what are we going to do about it? That's an easy place for Metro to be. We are, by definition, a forward-thinking agency. The crises of 2020 were acute. They required planning for an hour ahead, not 20 years. I'm proud of the way Metro was able to adapt and partner, particularly at our visitor venues, like the Oregon Convention Center, Portland Expo Center, the Oregon Zoo, and the Portland's Centers for the Arts. As I mentioned, this stage has been empty for far too long. There are other places like the Portland Expo Center and the Oregon Convention Center that were instrumental in our region's coping with the pandemic in 2020. Let's take a look at how we have been powered in our partnerships through leading with a heart.
When we needed an outdoor space to quickly and safely test thousands of Oregonians for COVID-19, the Portland Expo Center was a natural fit.
During this crisis, we have been honored to serve a tremendous public benefit by hosting healthcare professionals who work every day to flatten the curve by offering testing and vaccines.
Expo Center was a great partner in helping us get set up and donating a space for our operations. As the rainy season set in, we needed an indoor space, and the Oregon Convention Center's underground parking garage was a great fit. OHSU had great success with testing at the convention center, and as vaccines were deployed, the metro area health systems realized it was an ideal space and location for a mass vaccination clinic.
In these challenging times, we are excited to offer space at the Oregon Convention Center for healthcare providers to provide recovery and care during the pandemic, first with testing and now with vaccinations.
The convention center could be used for vaccinations. OHSU moved our testing back to the Expo Center at a site now fortified to withstand the winter elements.
The Expo Center is well suited to pivot and transition our spaces quickly, from turning a film shoot into a volleyball court or setting up a drive-in and outdoor testing sites in a pandemic. We are here and committed to serve our clients, guests, and community.
Every day, in partnership with Kaiser, Legacy, and Providence, OHSU is vaccinating thousands of Oregonians at the convention center, and our work continues.
The team at the Portland Expo Center are proud to serve our community.
Metro and its visitor venues have been great partners in every step of the way and have helped us keep Oregon safe. Thank you, Metro.
In the midst of all this, Oregon's forests started burning. It was an unprecedented event and upended tens of thousands of Oregonian lives. Again, Metro stepped up. We welcomed the Red Cross to the Portland Expo Center to stage for the response to the horrible wildfires. And we have welcomed fire victims from Clackamas County to the Oregon Convention Center for 8 nights of safe shelter. All of this took place while we were also working on much more permanent housing in our region. In 2018, voters approved our affordable housing bond measure, designed to build housing for more than 12,000 people in our region within a decade. Today, I'm here to report great news on the progress of that measure. So far, we've committed 34% of the money approved by the voters. But that 34% is supporting the construction of 2,100 units, more than halfway to our original goal. Nearly 700 of those units already funded are for families who earn annual incomes lower than $26,000 a year. Again, we've spent a third of the resources the voters approved, but we're delivering more than half of the units we promised. We could not have had the success without the commitment of the housing authorities in the region to meet the challenge. All across the region, from Oregon City to Forest Grove, from Happy Valley to downtown Beaverton, affordable apartments are under construction. These homes will be assets in our region for generations to come. The first residents will move into properties funded with Metro resources this summer. Hundreds of people will have the stability that brings success into their own lives. And there's more good news. With the Biden administration upping its support for affordable housing tax credits, our local dollars can go even further in supporting housing construction in our region. At our current funding pace, we could house closer to 20,000 people, far exceeding the 12,000 person goal we set in the 2018 bond. Housing now, stability now, dignity now, and for decades to come. Now, a lot of those units will go to folks who just need a little stability, who have been left behind by the market. We all know that there are folks in our region who need a lot more than just a roof to find stability, dignity, and peace. We all see the crisis in our streets. In downtown Portland, along I-205, along Powell Boulevard, St. John's, in Beaverton, in Oregon City, people are living outside because they're unable to get the support they need to get back on their feet. Again, the federal government left us behind, and we've had to pick up where federal tax cuts left off. A year ago, voters in the Portland region passed a groundbreaking supportive housing program with an audacious goal to functionally end chronic homelessness in Greater Portland. This effort was a true partnership. This heavy lift was built on the foundation of the experience of people on the street, the providers of the service, our mayors across the region, and business throughout the area. It is a godsend to this region that we were able to get this across the finish line in the midst of a health and economic crisis last May. Metro Council was able to take a faint vision to reality. That's what we do. For much of the past year, Metro has been working with the 3 counties to design a plan that will meet the vision, to efficiently and transparently help every person experiencing chronic homelessness in Greater Portland. And while the counties will be doing a lot of the management of this effort, Metro will be providing the oversight and accountability the public demands. We heard from constituents across the region and are leaning into their request that Metro work on the metrics of accountability and success and report back.
The Supportive Housing Services measure, approved by voters in May, will generate game-changing investments for our community to create a system of care that fully scales to meet the needs of community members who are experiencing chronic homelessness by creating supportive housing. And supportive housing is the best known tool for addressing chronic homelessness because what it does is it both pairs long-term rent assistance or housing programs that make sure that the housing is permanently affordable for that household's low income with services both on-site in the building or in the community based programs like recovery supports, mental health care, employment programs, whatever it takes for the individual who's recovering from homelessness to both find and secure that apartment, but then also be able to stay stably in their home and recover from the traumas they've experienced while homeless.
There's a real misconception that if you get someone into housing, all the problems automatically should be solved. You know, you're not on the streets anymore. What do you have to complain about? Well, a lot of people that have been on the streets a long, long time, it's just an adjustment to sleep in a bed again. Fortunately, when I moved into this building, we have already in place a resident services coordinator, which is like our building's social worker. This person helps connect you to services and other organizations that can help you not just live and survive, but hey, how about thrive? So many people that become homeless don't start out mentally ill, but you live that existence so many years in a row. It can happen that it comes on. Everybody has a breaking point. And so coming to a place like this, you have a resident service coordinator who is not only trained to understand your issues, your trauma, your PTSD, but knows how to navigate you into other organizations and such that will help you.
Building housing isn't just about the finished goal. It's about being smart about how we use public resources. One of the ways we're doing that is in an effort to increase access to the trades and address the labor crisis in construction. I'd like to welcome Councilor Christine Lewis to talk a little bit more about this work.
Our pool of skilled labor is shrinking. Workers are aging out of the trades, and there aren't enough new workers to replace them. Part of the problem? Workplace culture. It's been well documented that women and people of color have a harder time breaking into the trades than white men. Some of that is because of bad behavior. Intimidation and harassment is particularly acute in the trades. And some of that is cultural, ensuring that businesses provide the supports that workers need to sustain a work-life balance. Metro's Construction Careers Pathway project aims to help contractors create the workplaces that can provide equity in the trades. By working with contractors on public projects to train staff on how to be more inclusive, we can expand our workforce and provide more people access to family wage, wealth-building jobs, all while doing the work the voters expect us to do anyway. Here's how what we call C2P2 works.
My name is Mike Clifford, and I'm the Director of Operations for Mortensen. I represent the general contractors on the Regional Collaborative Committee for the Construction Career Pathways Program. I serve on the committee that focuses on how we create respectful and welcoming work sites. Throughout the industry, we know that bullying, hazing, and harassment are reasons that all workers leave construction. By taking action and improving the cultures on job sites, we can ensure that skilled workers are both physically and psychologically safe at work. By working together through the Construction Career Pathways Program, we have a unique opportunity to ensure that all workers, especially people of color and women, can enter the construction industry and stay to build a lifelong career. This will improve our industry, our communities, and people's lives.
My name is Rahi Reddy, and I direct Metro's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Program. First and foremost, the Construction Careers Pathways Project ensures that our public infrastructure projects actually benefit communities equitably. At a very basic level, it's making sure that we are putting aside investments to ensure that we have resources for diverse workers to access these jobs, to learn about them, and to actually build their careers on our projects. Additionally, we see that when you have a skilled workforce that's ready to be deployed, that our labor costs actually go down. And one of the biggest challenges we're facing in our region, why our public infrastructure projects cost so much, is because we don't have enough workers to work on these projects. And I think the last piece is really a more fundamental belief that we have, which is when you have racial equity in the way you do business and in the way you deploy resources and you seek racial equity outcomes, it's actually good for our economy. It's good for the region. What we know is when we have full participation of working people from across sectors and across neighborhoods, and they have access to these great jobs and these careers, that it benefits their neighborhoods, it benefits their schools, it benefits their communities. And so we really see as several benefits to investing in a diverse workforce and making sure they're successful on these jobs. And the public sector is taking the lead in a multi-region, multi-pronged effort to ensure that we can do that across the region.
Thank you, Councilor. Making a more equitable region isn't about one destination or about one group of people. It's about all of us. It's about working toward healthy communities for everyone, about being better, more just, and stronger together. 90 years ago, when this theater opened as an old-time movie house, it and several others excluded people of color, much like most of our state. As we close out Black History Month, I want to take a moment to acknowledge how many times Black Oregonians rose to meet the challenges continually presented by racism and exclusion, and how these systems of oppression sought to dismantle Black prosperity and belonging. These systems were exposed again and again, but the calls for justice rang clearly throughout our nation last summer. We also need to recognize that these calls for justice, the events of last summer, The protests by people in this region do not show our weakness as a region. They show our strength of resolve to disrupt the system and show the rest of the country how to lead with a heart and in partnership with our BIPOC community partners. These protests are symbols of our strength, and they will make our economy stronger. There are folks who want to take the easy way out, who compare the calls for justice to a volcanic ash cloud that will bury our city. They do not give this region enough credit for all the times it has risen from economic ashes to bloom again like a rose. We overcame the timber crash. We overcame the disinvestment in the city's urban core and suburbanization. We overcame the dot-com bust. And every time we persevered through our own innovation and ingenuity, and the rest of the country was left playing catch-up. This will be no exception. Those who want to dismiss the region as over are people who are afraid of the conversation to come. We know the uncomfortable conversations about equity, income inequality, safety, health, and justice are coming to every single city in America. We are tackling these early, and we, again, will be the template that everyone else looks toward. As we recover together, we know that we will have to support and invest in our region's entire business community to get back on our feet, help people find jobs, and make sure that everyone can earn a living wage. And we know that this is also an opportunity to ensure that people most often left out of economic growth enjoy the positive impacts of our rebuilding as much as everyone else. That means we need to invest in childcare so that working families don't have to choose who goes back to work. We need to focus relief for vulnerable businesses, identifying ways to help them grow, whether that is rent relief, low-interest loans, or things like technical and digital marketing assistance. And we need to support vulnerable workers. Finally, this new climate of economic and social justice will make Oregon the perfect place for creating, growing, and attracting B Corporation companies that incorporate social and environmental justice into their very business models. These are the companies of the future, companies that will outperform the for-profit model by demonstrating their value to the world. Local companies like Stumptown Coffee, Tillamook Cheese, and United Fund Advisors all are paving the way in this new realm, and I want to see this region become the American B Corp hub in this decade. We will grow our economy while also meeting our needs for social responsibility and creating shared purpose within our community again. Why will companies keep growing and coming here? Not just because of our commitment to justice or equitable and durable economic growth, but also because of our commitment to our planet and our place in the beautiful environment here in Oregon. Since 1996, Metro has protected more than 17,000 acres of parks and natural areas all around our region. These are places you know and love: Graham Oaks in Wilsonville, Kenema Bluff in Oregon City, Scouters Mountain in Happy Valley, the Killen Wetlands near Banks, or Cooper Mountain in Beaverton. And they're some of our region's most popular summer destinations like Blue Lake in Fairview and Broughton Beach in Portland. This year, we are unveiling 2 new parks designed with extensive community involvement and built with the idea that all of the region's residents deserve access to the outdoors. Our parks team is doing cutting-edge work to talk to community members about the barriers they experience visiting nature and to break down those barriers so that all of our region's residents can feel comfortable in the outdoors. Now, here's Councilor Juan Carlos Gonzalez with a preview of what's to come at the Portland region's newest crown jewel.
On the west side of our region is an emerald above the hills. With sweeping views of the Tualatin Valley and miles of trails for hiking, biking, and gathering with friends, Chehalem Ridge is an inspiring place. Over the course of a 2-year engagement process, Metro worked with community members and our partner organization, Centro Cultural, on a safe and welcoming place to gather in nature. Thousands of people gathered at community events and open houses in English and in Spanish to help shape this beautiful nature park, which is set to open later this year.
When Chehalem Ridge Nature Park opens, visitors will be able to have a special experience. Perched up on a ridgetop and over 1,200 acres, there'll be a lot of opportunities to explore habitats and see great views. We've seen over 100 wildlife species up there: black-tailed deer, bobcats, American beaver, rubber boas, alligator lizards. So there's just a real range of native wildlife that can live there because of how large it is. When we started to think about a park at Chehalem Ridge, we identified sensitive areas and we worked to create a park that protected those areas while welcoming people to experience nature. We left large areas undeveloped without trails in them, so that gives the wildlife space to roam without a lot of interruption by visitors. Metro's been working on restoration at Chehalem Ridge for over 10 years. The entire site was basically a commercial tree farm. And we've been working to focus on a couple different things. One, protecting water quality by controlling erosion. And then we've also been working to take a very non-diverse industrial type forest and push it to a more natural looking forest that has more species in it and also actually is better for water quality. Protecting water quality and wildlife habitat is at the core of what Metro does, and Chehalem Ridge has given us the opportunity to take those core values and combine them with our mission to connect people to nature, support local businesses, and create a park that is welcoming for people and safe for wildlife. A lot of people care about this place and are helping us take care of it and create a really wonderful park.
When it opens, Chehalem Ridge will feature 10 miles of trails for hikers, equestrians, and off-road cyclists. With more than 1,000 acres of forest, along with accessible picnic areas and parking, this natural area has something for everyone, and we can't wait to welcome you to Chehalem Ridge.
Thank you, Councilor Gonzalez. I saw a sign earlier today when I was downtown. The sign said, "It's time for growth." You're damn right it is. Not just growth up, not just growth out, not just for more people or profits, but for growth as a region that cares about each other, that honors each other, that invests to make sure nobody is left behind. If we achieve that kind of growth, growth that pulls us all forward, we will be the national leader for recovery. This is our opportunity to build back better. Let's grab the reins and take back our own narrative. Let's write the next chapter in this region's story together. Thank you.